You ever meet someone and think you know their whole story just by what they wear? Let me tell you about a man everyone thought they understood until the moment he decided not to be invisible anymore. And when he stood up, it changed everything. This is the story of a night shift janitor who spent his last years gathering proof and a CEO who thought money could bury the truth. Act 1. The quiet man in the blue jacket, Sam Ellis, worked nights. He pushed a mop through the hollowed-out corridors of Mercer Defense Systems, a glass tower in downtown Riverton, where the lights never really went off and the elevators smelled faintly of stale coffee. He wore a faded blue jacket with a name patch he earned what the company paid, not much, and he kept his head down. People walked past him. They assumed they knew him. Janitor, invisible, replaceable. Nobody called him by the name he earned in another life. Nobody asked about the scar at his jaw or why his hands trembled when he read the news about soldiers coming home. Sam had a reason to be invisible, and it wasn't shame. It was strategy. Years prior, in a desert that most people only saw in headlines, he'd been Staff Sergeant Samuel Ellis, decorated for getting men out alive. He had a tattoo on his forearm, unit insignia, a date 5 tiny stars, and that ink would years later make a very rich man look at his own hands and see something he did not expect. The CEO, Graham Mercer, had built his company into a national supplier of protective gear, vests, plates, the kind of armor soldiers trust with their lives. He had a portrait in the lobby, a smiling young man in dress uniform, his son Marcus, and the company did well enough that yearly profits made headlines. Inside, though, there were emails someone didn't want anyone to read, QC checklists with boxes marked skip, and a culture where shipping on time beat listening to concerns. So, when Mercer stood at an all-hands meeting and decided to make a lesson about value, he pointed at a man with a mop and he laughed. "You with the mop know your place," he said loud enough for 400 people to hear. "This job replaceable. Anybody could do it." The room laughed. Sam didn't flinch. He looked down at his shoes, breathed through the cough that had started 2 winters ago, and kept cleaning. Then Mercer grabbed his sleeve, theatrically like someone putting on a show, and ripped at the cuff. The sleeve came up. The unit tattoo was there in black ink, all the details plain as daylight. The laughter died. Mercer's face went white the same way a man looks when he remembers something he'd sworn to forget. Act 2. The long game and the secret he kept. What no one in that room knew was that Sam had been there a long time on purpose. After he left the service, he'd heard whispers. Shipments that didn't match the tests plates that cracked in field trials. His old unit had suffered losses in an ambush. Among the dead was a young lieutenant who no one expected to lose his life. That lieutenant's name, turned out to be Mercer's son, had weeks before deployment sent a message to his father. "Dad, something's wrong with the plates. Please check the batch." The reply had been cold business first. "Our specs passed. Do your job." When the ambush came and plates failed, 5 men died. One of them was that lieutenant. Mercy for the dead. Not at first. Papers were adjusted, findings downplayed, and the family portrait stayed in the lobby. Sam, who'd held one of the wounded while gravity did its worst, heard what the lieutenant whispered before he died. A request, a plea that someone tell his father the truth. Sam tried to tell the man, and at the memorial he was shuffled out, treated as an awkward reminder. So Sam made a choice. He would get a job in the building where the armor was designed and sold, and he would be ignored on purpose. He would be the invisible witness. For 5 years, he collected scraps, discarded memos, printed emails, a sticky note shoved in a bin, a voice recorder left by a careless exec. He kept it in little black notebooks with pages numbered in ink. He wrote the names of those who died, the dates, the batch numbers, every moment he heard about shipments pushed past testing. He documented meetings, who said what, and he kept his face down while taking it all in. He also kept his illness secret. The doctors had told him months, maybe a year, and he lied to his granddaughter Lena when she asked why he missed her recital. "Night shift," he'd say. "You know how it is." He counted the days by what he could get done between chemo and coughing fits because he had to decide whether to spend what remained of his time with family or finish the truth. Then came the meeting where Graham Mercer decided to humiliate someone to make a point. Sam let the world see him for a heartbeat. When Mercer's fingers tore back the cuff and saw the ink, something in the room shifted. Sam stood up slowly, and for the first time in years he looked at the man who had signed the memos he kept. There was recognition, not of respect but of memory of a warning unheeded, and in that look was fuel. Someone in the crowd caught it on a phone. 93 seconds of video. Mercer mocking the janitor, the sleeve rising the tattoo, Mercer's face draining of color. The clip hit the web before the cleaning crew finished their shift. Overnight it spread. Outrage, anger, and a question that wouldn't be silenced. Who is this janitor, and why does that tattoo make a CEO tremble? Act 3. The Fallout and the Small Justice. A reporter named Ava Ortiz picked up the thread. She found military records. She found a voicemail thread between the lieutenant and his father, messages that begged the company to slow a shipment. She found a photocopy of an email in a trash bag, the kind Sam had emptied the night it was tossed. Each piece fit together like a stubborn puzzle. The headline read, "A janitor called replaceable is a decorated soldier. He kept a 5-year secret that proves a company shipped deadly armor." The company reacted with fury. Lawyers threatened libel suits, spokespeople called it a smear campaign stock. Tickers blinked red. But the raw evidence, emails, internal memos, a recorded boardroom voice clipped to a maintenance closet wall, started a cascade. Senators asked questions. Congressional hearings were scheduled. Public pressure mounted. Sam didn't wait for justice to move slowly. He walked into a hearing room wearing his old patch under a plain jacket, pulled up his sleeve, and spoke his truth. He said the names of the 5 men who died. He read an email from the lieutenant that began, "Dad, I'm begging you." He said, "I held him as he bled through his vest." On national television, the CEO's mask cracked. For the first time, that man wasn't the one in control of the narrative. That didn't mean clean endings. A company like Mercer had resources. Appeals, delay tactics, lawyers who knew how to bury bad things under paperwork. But public scrutiny does something money can't always fix. It brings witnesses forward. Former engineers who had been quiet for years came forward. Auditors reopened files. The Pentagon flagged contracts for review. The CEO invoked legal protections in public testimony. You can't buy silence from everything, but the wheels had turned. Sam's health continued to fail. He spent his last weeks talking to his granddaughter at the kitchen table, telling her why he chose to be invisible instead of present, why he burned through nights alone in order to keep a promise to men who would never know they had a champion. Lena didn't have answers for everything, only love and a fierce sense that the man who had cleaned floors also carried a weight no metal could fully describe. A few months later, indictments were announced. Investigations widened. The portrait in the lobby stayed, but the building felt different. Quieter, maybe, or somehow more exposed. Sam died with his notebooks on his bedside, and Lena signed the papers that kept his work alive. An application to an organization that would continue to investigate contractors who put profit before lives. What this story asks of you, I'm not here to give you a tidy moral. Real life doesn't always present closure. But here's the thing I want you to think about: how many Sam Ellises do we walk past every day? People wearing jackets that make them background. How often do we assume someone's job equals their worth? And when power makes choices that cost lives, who is brave enough or desperate enough to hold it accountable? If this pushed something in you, anger, sadness, curiosity, I want to hear it. Tell me about a time you saw someone treated as replaceable. Tell me if you think Sam made the right call by choosing the mission over family time. Do you think justice like this can come from ordinary people? Or do you think only institutions can fix it? Hit the comments, speak up. Argue if you want. Challenge me, tell your own story. If you believe that the people who clean the floors, empty the trash, and work the night shift see more than we give them credit for, subscribe. Share this video and leave a comment. Because sometimes truth doesn't shout. It mops it, listens, and when the timing is right, it stands up and won't be ignored.